Marketer of the day number 459. Grow a huge following on social media through consistent customer-first edutainment with Jasmine Star. Hey everyone, and thanks for listening. We're talking right now with Jasmine Star from JasmineStar.com, and Jasmine is a photographer and a business strategist from Newport Beach, California, and she dropped out of law school to pursue her dreams. And after she built an internationally recognized and award-winning business, she began consulting with entrepreneurs about how they could use social media to grow their businesses. And she's amassed over 600,000 followers on all of her social media platforms, and she believes that others can do the same to grow their businesses and pursue their passion. So lots of fun stuff to talk about. How are things today, Jasmine?
Oh, they're going so well. Thank you for having me, Robert. It's an honor.
I'm glad to be talking to you, and it's an honor right back at you because I'm always on the lookout for ways to build that social media presence. And so yeah, tell me about you and your business and what you have going on.
Well, it's been a really incredible ride. I started off as a photographer, and shortly thereafter, photographers were like, how did you get your business off the ground so fast? Within our first year, we had hit 6 figures, and people were like, it's a struggle. When you're a creative and you're an entrepreneur, a lot of times people don't know how to marry the passion of what they do creatively to the passion of actually turning it into a career. And so I felt like I was like pretty well suited to speak to that little niche of creative entrepreneurs. And then all of a sudden, different people from different spheres started asking, well, how did you build a personal brand? How are you using social media to grow your business? And I really just walked through a series of open doors, and it led me to where I am today. And it's really been an incredible ride.
Well, awesome. Well, and so did I hear that right, that maybe the way that you are different and unique is that maybe some people are too much on the creative side or too much on maybe the career mechanic side, and you found a way to make both work?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think that there's this temptation, right? We've all, for specifically as business owners, regardless if you think you're creative or not, if you've created something like a business, then you're a creative. Maybe not in the artistic form, but we all know the process of ideation, of hope, saying a prayer, and then all of a sudden being like, okay, I have to make this business work. And in that respect, there's this thing, regardless if you're creating widgets, if you're assembling baseball gloves, if you're taking pictures or painting pictures, there's this thing that we want to do. And then we have to find a way not only to do that thing that would be really satisfying for us, but actually at the end of the day, how do we actually monetize this? How does this then become a career? And I feel like I became uniquely suited to understanding the cadence of how people are purchasing things, period, but furthermore, how people are purchasing things online. And I think that's become a real defining factor in my business.
Interesting. So you weren't just about, let me take all this action, or you weren't just about, let me get noticed, but you were like, it has to end with making money somehow.
Well, absolutely, because I never aim to be popular or cool. I aim to live my best life. And the things that I made a series of things that if I could live my best life, like what would that look like? And I would build a business and a life that I love alongside my business partner and my husband. Check that box. I'm able to wake up and be the captain of my own ship so that if I want to work from pajamas all day, I can. If I want to have a series of business meetings all day, I can. And like having this like idea to be fulfilled by the thing that I'm creating and making to share with the world, as well as sustaining my life, has always been the key tenet. Like I don't need to be popular on Instagram. I need to teach other people how they can grow their businesses and their profitability along the way. If I'm doing that, then I've been doing the thing I've been called to do.
Yeah, and there's so much good stuff in there. Like one thing that comes to mind is, I'm maybe putting a couple of different quotes or sayings together, but like there's the one thing about like if you don't know where you're going to end up, then you're just going to end up some random place. And not only that, but you'll end up in a place where someone else probably wants you to end up, like you're a 9-to-5 boss or something like that. And there's also some good stuff in there that you said about being fulfilled by the thing that you do, and as long as that aligns with what you want out of life, as long as that aligns with what your goal and your vision and all that stuff is, then it doesn't matter if you're putting in tons of hours or putting in tons of work, if that's the thing that gives you the satisfaction. And that's been like a really, I keep trying to drill that into my head, especially these last few months when I'm getting the calendar full and doing all these things where maybe in the past I might have told myself, well, I've been working real hard, I've been putting in all these hours, I'm going to get burned out, I need to take a break, as opposed to changing things up a bit and saying, well, I'm fine doing tons of stuff, I'm fine having all these things in motion, putting in all these hours, as long as I'm getting what I want out of it, as long as it's giving me that fulfillment. That's what I'm hearing from what you're saying.
100%. And let's up level that. Let's add some icing on this really awesome cake. And that's something my mom always told me. She said, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to be thankful when you arrive. Because so often we look back at these things like, 5 years ago, I said, if I could only have this. And it wasn't until I identified the this. And it's not necessarily a material thing, it's contentment, it's fulfillment, it's happiness, it's perhaps material things like a car or things that you kind of put in your mind of saying, this is where I hope my business takes me. If you haven't outlined that, by the time you get that car, by the time you have that happiness, by the time you have contentment, you'll never have the opportunity to take a step back and say, wow, I hit the bullseye I intended to. And now when we need to do is reset our target, we're going to aim even higher and farther next time.
I like it. So instead of just saying, well, I did some stuff, look where I ended up, you said, here was my milestone, my target.
Absolutely.
And I pointed myself there. I got there. So I feel that satisfaction. And then now that I hit that target, here's the next target I'm going for.
Absolutely. And that confidence. Can you believe what it feels like to say, whoa, we hit this? Like this thing that we dreamt of, we hit it. Now what? And taking that just 5 seconds to like soak it up and really appreciate that moment for its rawest beauty of we just accomplished something we didn't think was possible. And then moving on from there. It's the moment of appreciation, that moment of gratitude, that moment of hearkening, that like deepest sense of your core, and then saying, all right, let's do bigger next time.
I love it. And what you're making me think of is maybe 10 years or so ago, I was with my dad in Nevada and we were going to some little small town casinos and things like that. And I was playing the slot machine and I won like $1,250 in one spin, and all the alarm bells are going off. And I was sort of excited, but I felt weird because I was sort of maybe in my own head too much. And I thought to myself, like, I'm not as excited about winning all this money that I could be, because my mind was on like, okay, well now I got to cash out, or I think like, okay, well, like I didn't really earn that. It just happened to me. As opposed to a couple of years later, I really had it in my head that I wanted to have a house. I wanted to be a homeowner. Right? I said, well, I need to save up this amount of money, need to take those things. And then once I actually got to that goal, that was 1,000 times more fulfilling, this house that I had worked and paid for versus this money that just kind of happened to me.
I couldn't agree more. It was beautifully analogous to what we're talking about.
Awesome, thanks. Just made it up on the fly there, or not made it up, but thought back to it and kind of put it together. So great. So I'm really curious about. You said that you started this photography business, you hit the ground running, you did a lot of things right, grew really fast. So what's the story there? What happened there?
Well, I believe that in a really saturated market, and now to say that photography, like the photography world is saturated, really is apropos to all industries. Every industry with low barriers to entry is saturated. But the podcast market is saturated. The business sector is saturated. I mean, a lot of things that people can create and start businesses, those markets are saturated. So this applies to anybody who feels they're in a saturated market with a lot of competition. I realized that in order for me to stick out in the market, I had to create a brand. And a brand is, as Seth Godin describes, and I'm going to botch his definition, but it's a series of memories and expectations and stories that connected make a consumer choose one business over another. And I thought to myself, there are literally hundreds of thousands of photographers. I need to create a brand. I need to create an experience of why somebody is going to choose me than any other photographer that they could choose. And at the end of the day, the thing that I created for prospective customers, and then as my business diversified, prospective clients, was that I needed to create value. I needed to create helpful, educational, inspiring content that further defined me as a person and not just about the thing that I sold. So this goes back to how I see a lot of entrepreneurs using social media. It's always about like, I'm selling this, buy this, just posted this, buy this. The thing that I sell now comes in green. The thing that I sell is now on sale. It's strictly about the thing they provide instead of about it being about the thing or the person who provides it. So if we're all putting out photos, if we're all putting out cakes, if we're all putting out jewelry, and the thing that we lead with is the end product, we're doing ourselves a disservice. We, as the creators of the thing that we're putting out and producing, should be leading. That's how we should be led. We should be connecting with people on a real social basis to further define what social media means in the business world.
Well, great. And that sounds like, I mean, that's a good idea on all fronts, right? Because if it's too much about the product, the mechanics, then it seems like, how do you even compete with that? Versus if it's more about you and the cool things you're doing, the experience you provide, and the emotions and all these random things going on, it seems like there's a lot more content there as far as posting stuff to social media and getting things out there, and it seems a lot easier to be unique because there's only one of you. There's a million other photographers, there's a million other people doing wedding photos and things like that out there.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like it's great to talk about, to focus more on people like them and on you as opposed to the product. So what sort of actions did you do to make that happen, and what did you do to get yourself noticed and out there and all that?
Well, one thing was because especially at the start of my business, I didn't have a lot of money. And so I had to think about the creative ways to market myself online. And that was first and foremost to always think of the customer first. I created online visual content and educational content and helpful content that would ultimately attract a customer to stumble across the thing that I was putting online. And social media was such a valuable resource in regards to that. So I would create blog posts about things that I wanted to really focus on. So if you go to my blog today, you'll see just a litany of blog posts like how to use Instagram stories for your business, how to get discovered on hashtags for your business. So I'm creating content to ultimately bring people into my orbit, provide value, because when I can provide value, it builds trust. And when you build trust, you attract new followers. And when you have new followers who trust you, they're more inclined to become customers. And I think that's the thing that we really need to focus on when it comes to social media. It's number one, you want to be consistent. You can't say, oh, I want to use Facebook for my business and then show up like once a week. It's like social media is a daily conversation, multiple times a day, engaging with your audience, providing really great, fun conversations, providing content that really points back to your business without having to sell your business. So number one is consistency. Number two is authenticity. Don't be something that you're not. You're going to ultimately attract customers who really love you for being you. The good, the bad, the ugly, the awkward, the idiosyncratic, put that out there. It's totally fine because you're going to attract people who just get that. And lastly, you're going to want to make sure that you're providing content that is applicable. You can't have this really high level, so for instance, when I talk about social media, I never want to get into the minutia, right? It's just about creating basic content that people can apply, take, and use immediately upon reading or watching.
Well, awesome. And one thing I'm really curious about all that with a lot of the social stuff, it seems like there were a couple years when everyone was trying to get social media figured out, and there seemed to be that problem of, if you have a business, if you're in a niche, the problem of either going into one extreme of just posting the randomness of social media, like sharing some cute meme or some quote, and the other extreme of being too technical. And what's that Gary Vee book, like the left jab right hook, where he shows like, well, here's some cool things Delta Airlines is doing or Taco Bell is doing to show some of the silliness and to get more of like the mass market crowd, but also working in the brand and maybe even working at a lesson. So do you struggle with that, of getting it dialed in or calibrated just right, of like being mass market enough to get attention, but then also not going too far off the deep end as far as the techie details and things like that?
I most definitely did struggle with that. I kind of felt like, but everybody did. We were like all like baby colts, like coming out of the womb. We didn't know how to walk. We were trying to stand up straight. We didn't really know how it works. And now that I could say that I've been an active practitioner for the past decade with social media and leveraging it specifically for business, I can say I understand the cadence. And the cadence, without again getting too technical, is really social media is about one thing: being social. And if you're going to be on social media for your business, the idea, very similar to jab, 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 right hook, is to put out content that is entertaining, educational, enlightening, aspirational. You want to put things out, like people need to look at your account and understand what you do for them, not what your business is about. Sure, your business, you could be a fitness professional, but people don't always want to hear that you're a fitness professional. People want to hear about the benefit. What are you going to do for them? Are you going to give them meal planning? Are you going to give them workout tips? Are you going to give them at-home things, workouts for busy moms? They want to know the benefit first. And when you could talk about the benefit in a social way, like, hey guys, I'm creating a recipe. I'm in my kitchen and my baby is sleeping in a baby bajorn on my chest, but this is the recipe I'm making for tonight. People love that stuff. Why? Because it's social. It's also educational. Now, if you were to be in a perfectly coiffed kitchen and say, at the count of 10, I'm going to teach you 10 steps to creating the perfect, cheese fondue. That's great. That's wonderful. But it's like that real kind of social aspect that really resonates with people on social.
Awesome. Well, great stuff in there. Go with the benefit first because people are most concerned about what's in it for them. And what what you're reminding me of is sometimes my wife and I like to look at some of those cooking videos on YouTube.
Yes.
And the ones that are like super duper long, like not interested, but like the tasty ones are like 3 minutes. I love it.
Yes.
And then there was some, I don't know, there's some lady on there who's like super duper cheesy, and it's like over the top how just how thick her cheesiness is. But I'll watch it. I'll watch it for like two reasons, right? I'll watch it because I want to see the cool recipes, but then I'll also watch it just for the entertainment part. So it's like I feel like I watch maybe 2 or 3 times as much of this person at compared to someone else, because sometimes I'll be in the mood for both. Sometimes I'll be in the mood just for the content or just for the entertainment. So like, yeah, I can definitely relate to some of the people who definitely have both of these things in there as far as like the benefit. They give me what I want, but then they also have enough of them in there where I might just sometimes be in the mood to watch it just for their personality, for their shtick.
And you want to know what the crazy thing is? That word I just heard coined a few years ago. It's called edutainment. And that is what's really killing it on social media. It's education and entertainment intertwined. Now, do you need to always be over the top? No, not at all. If that's your true authentic self, then awesome, rock it out. But when you see like these chefs on YouTube who are like over the top, it really does give you permission to step into your true self. Nobody's looking for perfection. People are looking for authenticity. And I think that's what social really highlights.
So speaking of that sort of stuff, I mean, do you see like a big mistake being made on social? Like, do you think it's that? Do you think like it's not enough authenticity, or you think is it like too much just rapid fire stuff no one cares about, or where are you seeing these days people really missing the mark when it comes to marketing on social media?
Well, first and foremost, beyond getting into like, to me, um that's like a double hit. People who are like being concerned with like authenticity and your true self on social media, they're like the average double play. Why am I making sports analogies? I have no idea. I think that the main thing that people should be focusing on truly is like a single hit, like just get to first base. And first base is consistency. That's the thing they're going to be focusing on again and again. And you'll hear me say this all the time, is that people believe that they're using social media to market their business. But if you're just showing up once or twice a week on social and it's just to talk about your business, you're not marketing your business on social media. There's a difference between using social media and being on social media. When you're using social media, you have a plan, you have a strategy, you know who you're talking to, you're engaging. And just being on social media is doing it when you casually remember. Is all of a sudden, if you're in a product launch or if you're in a sale or if you have a new product, you're in there rapid fire, just talking about yourself. And then all of a sudden, when the newness shines off, you go back to being completely silent. Or if you're vacationing in a really cool spot, it's like you take the machine gun approach of being on social and sharing everything all the time. And then when you get back to your home in Minnesota, it's super quiet and you're not doing much about it. That's just being on social. When you are actually using social, you have a plan, you have a strategy, you show up consistently, you're on hashtags, you're responding to DMs, you're out there cultivating real authentic relationship with your followers, because your followers are going to become your ardent supporters for your business.
Interesting. And so basically, like when it seems to me like based on what you said there that it seems like, well, like if I go and look on Facebook or something, and I'll usually randomly go on Facebook just because I was bored, and then I'll see someone else's content, and I'll for whatever, I'm just not realizing, like I usually think, oh, I see someone else's content, they must have been bored too, and they must have been posting stuff randomly too. But what you're saying is that we need to be consistent about it, and maybe set aside time every day or multiple times a week to do this, because even though we might be looking on Facebook randomly, just a random time of day, that's not what the most successful people are doing. Is that right, or on the right track?
Oh, 1,000%.
Well, cool. And then sort of along those lines, so we need to be doing all these cool things on social. And I don't know, I'm guessing or assuming that maybe you have some cool, interesting things that you do to stand out, because like, I had someone on a few weeks ago who was telling me about like things like, well, someone looks at the likes and the comments and the shares and things like that and makes a note of those people and like goes out to their pages and makes it a point to help them out, so that way there's the reciprocity. And something else that people keep mentioning to me is I need to be running some kind of like a giveaway contest on social media. So do you do any kind of like interesting out of the box things like that?
Um, you know what? I'm just going to be really honest and like I'm a straight shooter. To me, that's not out of the box. That's the norm. If you're actively using social media, having a giveaway multiple times a year, norm. And like, going back for people who share my post from my Facebook page, I go to their post and I leave a comment or I like that. And does it seem counterintuitive or does it seem vain to be liking your own stuff? No, because you're engaging on somebody else's page. I respond to every single comment on my Facebook page. I respond to every DM that I get from Instagram. I'm responding as much as possible to the comments on Instagram. I'm searching commonly used hashtags. So for instance, I share about the books that I'm reading. So I have a specific hashtag for the books that I'm reading. And when people go through and use that hashtag, I go back to their post and I leave a comment or like that photo to encourage them to say like, hey, I'm glad that you're liking the books that I've recommended. And so I think from that perspective, that's not out of the box. That's the norm. That's where marketing in the online world is definitely going.
Awesome. So we need to all be stepping up our game. Things that we used to think were maybe icing on the cake or like the meat of it that we need to be doing. So that's really great. And so do you think that as you were building this photography business and having this huge success and building this huge following in a short amount of time, do you think there was like one thing you did that made the difference, or was it just having all your bases covered and doing all these different things?
You know, I got asked that question just yesterday. It's like, if you had to just pick one thing to attribute your success or business growth, and it boils down to simply not giving up. It's seriously hard work. It's continuing to write blog posts when nobody reads them. It's continuing to foster engagement on a Facebook page that feels like it's dying. It's continuing to show up on Instagram every single day when you see that you have more people unfollowing you than following you. It is literally the stick it to it. It's the chutzpah. It's the resilience. It's the grit. It's simply just saying, I know where I'm going, and I just have to be patient enough to get there.
Okay. And so as far as having that patience and having that consistency, I mean, do you think that we all need to be putting in like a minimum amount of time or a minimum number of actions? Like, should we be doing this like an hour every single day, or should we have a team or use any kind of software? Like, is there like a minimum commitment we all need to be putting forth as far as social media goes?
Well, my advice has always been that you must, it's like social media is like a garden, and you have to tend that garden if you really ultimately want to harvest. And so, whatever platforms you're trying to grow, my advice has always been to, at minimum, participate or tap into it at least once a day. So, if you're like, I really want to use Instagram or I really want to use Facebook, okay, well, then make sure you're updating at least once a day and responding to your DMs and responding to comments and engaging with your audience. But a lot of times, people become so overwhelmed with the sheer magnitude of being like, I'm trying to run a business, like social media is just yet another thing I have to do. And so all of a sudden the efforts become lackluster, or they become like a chore instead of it being like a really viable option to market your business. And because I, connect with so many entrepreneurs, and the thing that I was hearing the most as pressure points was, number one, Jasmine, I don't have any photos to post, like, or I don't know what to post. Number two is like, I don't know what to say. And number three is I don't have a clear plan of action. Like, I don't know if what I'm doing on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest is really right for me as I'm pursuing this. And so I created a social curator. And it is a monthly subscription that provides people with 30 stock photos for the month. It provides them with caption templates of what to say on Facebook and Instagram. And every single month, we tackle a topic, a very commonly asked question, like, how do I use Instagram stories for my business? How do I revive my Facebook page in 30 days? How do I find the right hashtags for Instagram? So every single month, we're providing these action plans, these photos, these caption templates, and like literally you can have your whole month planned in less than an hour. And of course, you're going to be in there also adding posts about your business and who you are and what you're doing. But what we're really trying to do is create inventory for you to select and choose from, so that you're not tied down to the content creation, but the content cultivation as a result of all the new followers and engagement that you're getting as a result of using Social Curator.
Wow. Well, I got to say, like, I love this idea because, as you know, there's all kinds of like social media trading out there. And whenever I tried to jump into that, I always got so frustrated. I always felt like I was going at it alone. I always felt like if I saw some other fan page post something cool, I'd have to like dissect it and reverse engineer it and be like, well, where did they get that picture? What size is it? They had to get the font, did that with the colors, why did they word that sort of stuff? And it became super frustrating. And so this sounds like something that really helps all of us, because we can not only have the template, so that way, I mean, such a time saver there, and also having the monthly topics so we can hit those different milestones, but also we have that kind of community support, so we're not just going in alone, we have other people working with us and helping us out. So this sounds like a super amazing idea. So where can people find out about Social Curator and join this cool thing?
Thank you so much. You can find it at mysocialcurator.com. And the best part is that it's $25 a month. We really want to make this accessible for small business owners. And the thing that we've heard the most is that though we give people the opportunity to use the photos and to use the captions, what we hear the most are people are like, wow, it's just so easy that I feel inspired to make my own photos and to write my own captions. And that to me is the biggest compliment. Great, you use our stuff as inspiration and then you go out and find your voice on your own on social media. It is just a testament to the power of feeling confident when it comes to growing your business on social media.
That's super awesome. So it's like the training wheels that we need to get started, and then
Yes,
once we get some momentum going, then we can just launch off on our own.
that's the goal.
Super awesome. Well, great. So if you guys out there and gals as well, if you've been struggling with social media, if you've been going through some of those things that Jasmine is saying, where you feel like you're doing all this stuff, putting in all this time and work, and it seems like it's just not really getting there yet, then maybe you need to try something different, have a different strategy, have better tools. And this mysocialcurator.com place is the place to do it, because you'll get that, not only that action plan, so that way you don't fall into that trap of forgetting to log into social media for weeks and weeks, and then you don't get any sort of audience picking up speed there. But you also get the templates, you also have those goals, so that way you're always moving towards something cool. So mysocialcurator.com. And are there any other books or offers or websites you want to tell us about as well here?
Well, I do have an Instagram for business program. It's called Insta180. And you can find that at insta180.com. But, beyond all that, I don't want to make this a pitch. I want people first to get to know me and be like, let me see if this Jasmine girl knows what she's talking about. So people can find me on all social platforms at Jasmine Star. And people can also find me at my website, jasminestar.com. I do my best chatting online. So feel free to leave a comment and I'll hit you up in the comment section.
Super great. So JasmineStar.com and Jasmine Star everywhere else. And I love that answer, Jasmine, in that, there are a lot of marketers out there who just like hit you over the head with stuff, and then I end up not buying from them. But there's other people where I started off just by liking one of their things or liking their fan page or something, and then that led to all these other things. I ended up subscribing to them on YouTube, getting some value out of that, getting on their list, getting to know them, sometimes talking to them or hiring coaching, or just like there's a little crack in the door, and then I try them out, and I get all these little micro commitments of like, oh great, well I went and checked out Jasmine's freebie, and then I got some great stuff out of that, and then I joined her monthly program and I got something out of that. So I just love that strategy of being super chill and laid back and saying, I just want to help you out. You try me out with this little thing, you'll get something out of it, and then build a relationship from that. So I love it, and I love your philosophy and your mindset and all the advice that you had for us today. So everyone make sure to check out mysocialcurator.com and just use today's episode as a reminder to put more in, maybe a little more into social media every day than you've been doing, because it does sometimes feel like it's a thankless job or it's just playing around. But I mean, go and try to find one online brand that's doing really well that's completely ignoring all social media. You won't find it. We all have to be upping our game these days, and so let's do it. And make sure to check out Jasmine Star or Insta180 or even My Social Curator if you think that's a good fit for you. And either way, whether you do or you don't, also make sure to connect at Jasmine Star or whenever your favorite social media platform is. And I appreciate you, Jasmine, for stopping by and sharing some of these great ideas with us today.
Robert, it has been a true honor. Thank you very, very much.
Please follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/RobertPlank. That's twitter.com/RobertPlank. And while you're adding me, also like Marketer of the Day on Facebook by going to facebook.com/RobertPlankShow.